Factors into the reality split.
That's beautiful. So, and the whole split idea is, it's not like we've been taught in some religions where it's like some people go to heaven, some people burn in hell for eternity. It's almost like some graduate and some have to continue on, and then maybe they'll graduate in the next lifetime, or who knows, 10 lifetimes down the road. But it's all really a learning experience. Is that pretty much how the
Yeah.
Buddhists teach?
So I'll tell you two answers to that. One, the Buddhist answer, which that I'm familiar with, and the information that comes from my hypnosis practice of QHHT. So the Buddhist answer is, and what I've been taught through this tradition is, when enough people on Earth have their awakening, and they don't need that many, maybe 1%. And they've actually shown this in research, academic research, that if 1% of people focus on a certain outcome, it will have an effect on the greater reality. It doesn't matter if 99% of the world doesn't know about the stuff. If 1% of the population is doing this, that's all it takes to tip it. So in Buddhism, when enough of humanity has awakened and start using the resources and gifts that it has, just much like Buddha, to start creating the reality that they want by contributing their little piece to it, what it will bring us to is what they call the golden age. Okay? And we have help. In Buddhism, there is a folklore about the Tulku children. And for Dolores canon, they call it the indigo kids.
Right.
Indigo crystal, whatever you want to call them, doesn't really matter. But in Buddhism, we call them the Tulku children. And what the Tulku children are, and they're adults too, is they are souls that were working on certain metaphysic modalities or things that would help this reality. And they brought that with them. Okay? And what they're challenged to do is to radiate at a high level of frequency, at a high level of consciousness, have their awakening ascend up to a high level of consciousness, and then bring forth the metaphysics that they're working on from the spirit world into our reality, and leave our reality, much like Bucky Fuller did, with a enlightened contribution. Okay, so we have help, and that's the Buddhist terminology of it. And by doing that, people will who are like-minded will link together, and they'll work on these different contributions, and it would just take us into the quote golden age. Now, for Dolores Cannon's material, I've regressed quite a bit of clients who seek me out. And here in Seattle, everybody's very techie. They're very logical. They're very left brain. And I myself is very left brain too, because I love to create things. I love to create IT. I like to create products and books. So many of them are attracted to me because we have a lot of similarities. And so the clients that I get here, what they're trying to do is they're not trying to be celebrities. They're not trying to go do a travel circuit. They just want to live the best version of who they are now. They want to maybe amplify their career and their purpose in life. And so when I put them through the regression, what comes through are a various plate of lives that they've lived. And they could have had multiple lives as on Earth. They could have also had different jobs in the spirit world. They could have also been quote, quote, aliens in a different planet or a different universe. They could have been an energy being or a spirit being. There's a variety of different types of experiences and incarnations that they've had that come forth in my QHHT sessions. And it doesn't even matter what their previous experience is, but they chose to volunteer and incarnate into Earth to help awaken and raise the frequency of not only themselves, but the people around them. And so if everybody in the world, or at least 1% of people in different parts of the world, in whatever incarnation they chose to come in as, so they could be, you know, Asian, Black, white, doesn't really matter. When they start awakening and ascending up the frequencies in different parts of the world, what's going to happen is it's going to light up the world, and it's going to raise up not only Earth, but the people of Earth up to a higher frequency. And what's going to happen, and what does happen when you raise to a higher frequency, is you attract to yourself a parallel reality, which Dolores Cannon talks about a lot, and that's what I get in my sessions. You attract to yourself a parallel reality that is in line with the things that you came here to do. And the people who don't want this reality, this golden age, this in QHHT they call it New Earth, it doesn't, heaven on earth, it doesn't matter what you call it.
Right.
Higher level of consciousness and reality that is a higher frequency, and the people who are of a higher frequency will manifest that and work on that, on building that. And people who aren't ready for that and they want to stay in the path that they're still working on, so they're still working on forgiving people, they're still working on letting go of old wars that they've been fighting for eons through all the different lifetimes. They're still working on trying to be right about everything, whatever the deal is.
Right.
People who aren't ready for this, they will continue what they do, and they will just, as these people get more into who they are and building the life that they want to live, they will slowly separate, and then the realities will split. Okay.
So does this tie into the Mandela effect, or
that does tie? Yes, that ties into the Mandela effect. So this is how you. So for right now, what happens in my QHHT sessions, and I'm still working on it in my book. So because I get so many different themes and topics. So my challenge is to try to organize it in a way that makes sense to me. So I don't know where it's gonna turn out into, but right now you can, if you go on YouTube, you can still people who are watching Mandela effect, things changing right in front of them, things disappearing right in front of them, people even in their own personal lives who you remember maybe have so many kids and they have less kids, or they have more kids. You're like, what's going on? Or maybe I had somebody who's like, my sister broke her right leg. I was there, and this one, it's the left leg. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
I'm freaking out. I need a session. I need to talk to the oversoul. I need to understand what's going on. And then this stuff comes out, and they're like, oh, okay, this makes more sense than what my pastor was trying to explain to me. So, and it's fine. I get a lot of religious people too, because some things are so metaphysical that they can't get the answers in their
it's outside the box too much.
Yeah, it's a little bit too, and they just like, I don't know what to do for you. So they somehow find me. The angels send them, or just different ways in which people find me. So, anyways, Mandela effect. So you are experiencing these weird Mandela effects because you have changed your frequency. And this is right in line with Dolores Cannon's work and the stuff that I get through my sessions, the stuff that I know from my Buddhist tradition of 40 years. All the same stuff, saying the same things, using different terminology. But basically, the reason why we're seeing this stuff is because people have been given a second chance, okay? But that second chance is not going to be easy, okay? It's going to really push your inner demons out. There's a lot of polarization going on for the next couple of years, and it's up to you to decide. So there is really no timeline. It's just when the level of consciousness reaches a certain point that it splits. Okay. Until that level of consciousness. So like the more people are awakened and start working on their ascension and start living their better version of themselves, the more that splitting will solidify. And then you can't go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay.
Right.
But right now we can go back and forth because there's still people who aren't fully here or they're not all fully there. And remember, in both realities, there's a version for everybody. Your parents are here too, and so are your parents here. So, so if you decide to be the better version for you, you're going to have the parent set that is going to be in this reality, and this kind of like Sliders, much like that. Okay, the movie show Sliders, much like that. So, but anyways, and don't feel sorry or sad for the different versions and the different realities, because they're getting what the version that they need for their own
what they resonate at the most,
really, what they resonate at the most, and for their own growth. So you may have a conversation with somebody. I get clients who I had a conversation with somebody and they don't remember that happening, and I know that happened. You have a kind of a episode where you're like, am I going crazy? Am I not going crazy? Or you walk around your neighborhood and there's a tree in front of this house. You lived there for 30 years and you're like, that's never been there.
Right. But it looks like it's always been there.
That's an old tree. You know,
right.
Those kind of nuances are examples of you changing your frequency and making some change in how you see things. You work on something on your inner self, and now you radiate a different frequency. Your Merkaba or your Mandala has tweaked a little bit because you made that change in yourself on something of your inner work, that it's tweaked a little bit, and now you're experiencing a different reality because you just changed your history.
Right.
Okay. So, and in Buddhism, we call that, you know, manifesting parallel realities. In Western terms, the New Age term is Mandela effects. Now, the more people start being who they are and radiate at a higher frequency, by working on their challenges and their inner self and living their best version of themselves and whatever level they are at, then these Mandela effects will simmer, because now we're not going to be living in two worlds. It's not going to be interconnected. It's going to be split.
So not only are they helping their own growth, but they're actually contributing to the whole of those that's in that reality, basically, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, so what, in one of my sessions, what came forth was about the polarization that's going on and you know, in the news and in the world. And the thing is that it is, the things that are very polarizing are to make people decide.
The catalyst, as the law of one talks about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you this frequency or are you that frequency? Which one? And it's forcing people to decide. Like it's forcing you to do your inner work. It's forcing you to look into your soul and be like, am I this kind of person? Is this who I am? Is this the stuff that I support? It's forcing you to make a decision about your inner demons and your character. And whatever decision you make will change your frequency to either a higher one or a lower one. And the more people make those decisions, the more they'll be on one side or another. And there is nothing wrong with it, because in the greatest thing, we all die, we all go back to spirit world, and we all have our life review. Even the bad people, they have their life review. And in Buddhism, we don't believe in hell. But if you have a belief in hell, you believe that you deserve that, then you can create that for yourself, just like you can create anything else for you. But in Buddhism, every single soul pre-planned their life here, and for their own reasons and for their own spiritual growth. And they came here to do whatever purpose they came here to do, but depending on how they live it, they can either raise their level of consciousness or lower their level of consciousness, and it's completely up to them. And when they die, they go back and they have a life review, and they see, oh, I could have done that different. I did exactly, I would have done the same exact thing that I did now. It's completely up to them. And then whatever karma that they created, whether it's good or bad, will factor into if they choose to come back and try the life experience again, whether it's on Earth or in another reality or another planet or whatever the incarnation that they choose. They kind of like when you go to college or you go to school, they're like, okay, and you go to your guidance counselor, and they go, okay, so you want to have these classes and have these experiences. I can only put you in this experience if you met these requirements. And because you failed all your other classes and you were just a tyrant to everybody else in the class, you're not ready. So you're going to do it over again, or we can put you into kind of an alternative course
that would teach you the same lessons, but it's a little bit different or whatever.
So different, yeah.
You need these prerequisites, I think they call it in school, to be able to learn this lesson. Well, you've got to learn these first. You can't jump to
these. So, right. and so in Buddhism, it's much like that. So like, what people don't really always in the West want to hear is somebody like Hitler or Stalin or these horrific figures, is that they didn't go to hell. No. They did experience some kind of hell. In Buddhism, when you die and you have your life review, okay? When you have your life review, you have a life review from your perspective and everything you did, and you have your life review from the perspective of everybody else that you affected directly as you are them. Mm-hmm. And you have your life review from how your actions affected their descendants from their experience, and the review of how your actions affected all the generations following, all the way to eons, of how your lifetime affected their reality. So that's hell.
Oh, yeah. For somebody like Hitler or something like that. I remember in the Law of One when it came through that, like, well, Hitler needs a lot of care right now. People are like, care? Why does he need care? It's like, dude, if you had to live through each one of those people's lives you affected so adversely and feel the pain they felt, that's almost worse than just burning forever, because I mean it's more emotional, it's more personal, I don't know. He's gonna definitely experience what I mean, it's a very just system when you think of it that way.
It's a very just system. He masterminded maybe like 6 million deaths.
Oh yeah.
Okay, 6 million deaths times all the descendants times the rest of human history that was affected by what, like even you and I looking at it going, oh wow.
All right.
Just experience that.
Right.
That, oh my God.
Right. Yeah, I've thought of that. It's not only the people he killed, it's the people, the family members that were left alive to deal with the pain. He has to feel that pain, and it's very just, and it's going to take a while, I would imagine.
And so if he were to choose to come back, because in Buddhism, when you die, you come back to your certain level of consciousness, and let's say you want to ascend in the spirit world to another job, or you want to get promotion to another level, and you can't go there because you haven't met a certain criteria in your consciousness level. Mm-hmm. And so you have to go back. And so many people in the spirit world, and I have a lot of regressions talk about the spirit world. They go back in the spirit world and they are afraid to come back, but they want to, because they want to move on in the spirit world into another, experience. So they have to come back, and they have to work with their life planner and everybody to find a way that will, through grace, address everybody's suffering that they had caused directly. Mm-hmm. And that's a really hard job for a life planner to work on these type of souls. And it could take them, because there's really no time frame, it could take them eons to work on it. Mm-hmm. So, the person that, the person that is helping you out all the time may be the person that tortured you in another lifetime.
Right.
Okay. And yeah. I've seen those souls switch roles. Like the father is constantly buying anything for his daughter, and he is, sending her to Ivy League schools, giving her the best car, anything. He just all he does is work and provide for his daughter that he loves and just wants to just be in her good graces. But in a previous lifetime, he was tormenting her, and so this is his way to make up for it. Because somehow he doesn't know why he keeps doing this, but that is the way in which they found some way to address each other's unbalance. So, and there's different versions of that. I mean, it's all very unique to the client, but yeah. So that's in short, that's the Mandela effect, and there's a lot of different ways in which you can change your reality. QHHT is kind of like a cheat code, because in one session you can go through the challenges in this lifetime and in your other lifetimes that may be coming back for you to work on, and then you see exactly what your hang up is. And, when you get to the part where we talk to the oversoul, or the subconscious, or in some people they call it God, it doesn't matter, it's the same consciousness in everybody because we're all one. Which in academic studies they've proven, they researched that there is only one consciousness and we're all connected. So that's a whole nother topic of oneness. But when you come for a session, a lot of people will get these clarity moments, and then a light bulb will go off, and then they can go home and they can work on those inner issues that are holding them back from their ascension. And it's kind of their own little awakening, so it's like a cheat code. And then they can finally make it to the other side healthy and start working on manifesting the reality that is a greater version of who they are. And that's really where everybody is working on. So it doesn't have to be QHHT. You can have your spiritual awakening and work on your ascension through Narcotics Anonymous or AA, the 12-step program. You'll have a spiritual awakening there. You can have it through a lot of other spiritual traditions around the world as well. Some religions are attempt to do this as well. And so if you have your spiritual awakening through your religion, that's fine as well. It doesn't really matter the ways in which you have your spiritual awakening. What matters is that you have it, and that you make it to the other side, and that you start working on your level of consciousness and radiating at the frequency that you intended to have before you were born, so that you can have attracted to yourself the experiences that you had planned for yourself to do from the spirit world. So, I mean, if you want to talk about the spirit world, I could answer any questions you have about that as well.
That'd be really cool, because when I'm thinking about just your spiritual growth in general, so many of us can become stagnant, and using some of these modalities is a good way to sort of keep that forward momentum going. And even though you're working for yourself or working on yourself, dealing with those inner demons and dark sides of the dark night of the soul and the hero's journey and all that good stuff, you're still keeping that momentum going, and it's helping the whole. Even if you're just working on yourself, you're helping the whole, because we're always interacting with other people, and that can be a hang up if we're not dealing with other people properly. And then we have to go, like we were just talking about Hitler, you've got to go experience how you treated other people. But if you can deal with it now, that's less you have to deal with in the future, when you got to go and see how you treated people wrong or whatever,
Yeah.
So it's all together. It's all one, like you said,
Yeah. I mean, you could spend the next 80 or 100 years of your lifetime fighting over everybody and creating karma for yourself to deal with in multiple lifetimes down the road, or you can just stop what you're doing, find a QHHT practitioner if all the other ways that you've tried hasn't worked for you, get your cheat code, work on it, and just get to the other side, and then spend the rest of your life manifesting a greater reality for yourself. So it's up to you if you want to follow through with the life plan that you had set for yourself. And I'm so familiar with these topics because of my Buddhist background, but one of the things that comes up very often in my practice, because a lot of the clients that come through, like I said earlier, they just want to be the best version of who they are. And so I get a lot of computer programmers, a lot of scientists, a lot of doctors, hotel owners, just different things. And they just, they maybe had some weird nuances in their life that's happened, such as some weird Mandela effect that they want to get explained. And so when they talk to the oversoul, that gets explained. But they also want to bring forth whatever metaphysical contribution they're working on in the spirit world into their lives. So if they're a doctor, they want to bring more energy healing into their life and into their practice. Like, how can I bring more energy healing in? Mm-hmm. So maybe if they have a chiropractic office, they would bring in acupuncture, mm-hmm. meditation, maybe some massage, just kind of bring the whole fold in. If they're in a regular medicine and they're working with highly stressed customers or clients, they would maybe suggest some meditation, some different ways in which they can kind of balance their energy. So these are all energy healing that's really coming into the fold. Same thing with science. If they are working on materials, they want to learn a little bit more about sacred geometry, and what they could do in QHHT is, again, it's a cheat code to the other side. Is just ask them, how do I solve this problem I'm working on in my career? And it will give them the direction. It won't tell them the answers. Like, the oversoul is typically not going to tell my clients who and when and what to do or how to do it, but it'll give them suggestions like, you're spending a lot of time in this area and the answer is going to be more in this area. So it'll kind of lead them the way. Or if they're not really sure if they should start a veterinarian practice, and they'll get the session, it will tell them, yes, you're really good with animals, you love doing it, but start small until it grows. So it gives them very, very practical advice on how to, again, manifest a better, more greater reality for themselves.
Because it really is all about the experience of it, too. So you don't want to have all the answers just outright given to you, because that's part of the learning process. That's why we're here, right?
Yeah. And that's exactly what the oversoul says over and over again. I'm not going to give you the answers because there will be no point in you existing if you don't own your own decisions.
Right.
Okay. If you don't do your own talking and you don't walk your own walk, why would I split out into you and you and you and you if you're not going to ever live your own life?
Right.
I don't learn anything about myself, right. And so that's always kind of a surreal awakening for people when they realize that you have a lot of help and they will guide you and they will nudge you. The spirit world will nudge you through synchronicity, but it's up to you to decide to walk the walk.
Absolutely.
It's up to you to decide what your character is going to be, because it's not going to do it for you.
Are you surprised to see how things seem to be accelerating? I don't know if it's just me, and now that I'm in it, it seems like it, because I'm paying more attention to it, because I'm sort of new to this 2017. I've always been in religion, but my awakening and my dark night of the soul and all that happened at the beginning. What's that?
What year is it again?
In 2017 is when I sort of woke up. Yeah.
2017? Yeah. I mean, I had my awakening about 2011 when I've always, being Laotian and being Buddhist, I'm already very familiar with these topics, but it wasn't really until a lot of Buddhist monks started to participate in academic research to get this information and prove this information is correct. Like, awakening does change your reality. Ascension does change your reality, and start proving it. And now we have so much mainstream material in science and medicine, in all different areas, that we can continue to go on and research, the greater reality for as long as we want. But I started writing, and you can, on my website, merkabachakras.com, you can go to the blog page, and there's a wealth of information about these very ancient, metaphysic terms and topics, but proven through modern day science, math, etc. And so when you are living at a higher frequency, everything else around you also radiates at the same matching higher frequency. So the more condensed your Merkaba or your Mandela, whatever you want to call it, the more condensed it is, the more perfected it is, the more complicated it is and intricate it becomes, the more information you can hold, and also the wiser you are, the higher your level of consciousness. And as a result, it has no choice but to experience a reality that is that same frequency. So the slower, lower, dense reality is not attracted to you. It can't. It can't keep up with your level of consciousness.
Well, that really explains why so many of us in the chat, we really gravitate to one another, even because we feel that resonance. And we're like, oh, finally, people that get it, people that feel like I feel, and people that are experiencing the things I'm experiencing. And then you mentioning the orb, I wanted to go back to that because that kind of ties in with the sacred geometry or the geometric shapes that we all have. A lot of us have been seeing more and more orbs around us, like with our third eye, I guess, or out of the corner of your eye, you'll notice like an orb. People have been getting photographs of them too, more visible ones, but I've been getting a lot of them, even like sparkles and things like that in my field of vision. And I'm wondering if that's like us tapping into maybe higher levels of being the elementals and things like that that you hear about.
Yeah. So, these orbs. I mean, and I've had videos of myself, like in videos, and you'll see. I mean, there's the normal dust particles.
Right.
Dust particles don't do
Right. Right.
It doesn't do that. Okay.
Right.
Little orb just do. That's not dust particles. That's not
Right.
light. Okay.
Right.
So, and there's plenty of videos of that. I've seen those videos myself. And you can take pictures of it as well. And some people, like my best friend, she got her awakening through Narcotics Anonymous. But we had taken a picture early on when we were younger, and I had all these bubble orbs around me. And she had all these bubble orbs, and she had these like straight line orbs,
Mm-hmm.
in like 5 pictures,
Right.
random pictures at night. All hers were all like this, mine were all like this. And it's basically the oversoul is basically your spirit world. It's your soul group journaling their journey. They're having a journey with you, experiencing you, learning from you, so that when they choose to incarnate, they can use that information to help them in their journey.
Oh, very nice.
Okay, so I mean, because we keep coming back to the spirit world, so let me just kind of break it down really quick. And this comes from very in line with my Buddhist background, but it comes also from my clients. So basically, in the spirit world, what a lot of really old souls do is they go straight to the Great Library. And the Great Library is this just massive, it's always the same, like golden light that just goes straight up as high as you can see and as low as you can see. And it's just beaming. It's a very soft light, and it's just very intense. And when the souls go to this Great Library,
just like the Akashic records, or different?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when they go to this Great Library, it's just magnificent. They're looking around, and they are like, there's always these librarians. They're like, how are you? What do you want to experience? Where do you want to go? And you're like, I don't know. And they're like, okay, we talk to your life planner. And they're like, I'm working on my this and that. And, I want to have this experience. And remember, there are plenty of souls that come through that never had an earth experience before. And they're just coming here just for the ascension and awakening, just to help out. Or they're coming here just to experience what Earth is about. They're like, what is this about? So everybody comes for different ways. But these librarians, walk around, they help people. And basically these souls in the spirit world will go through the library. And just like when you go to a library, you can have books on different topics and so forth. And they would go to, let's say they want to work on forgiveness. They want to work on letting go And in Buddhism, the concept of forgiveness is to let go of the anger that you hold that somebody did that to you. Okay, so I can't just say I forgive you, and then still be angry. That means that you haven't forgiven because your energy hasn't changed. You're still holding on to that anger. Like Buddha says, when you hold on to anger, the only person that's burnt is you, because you're holding on to a hot coal. So when you finally let go of the anger that they did that to you, or maybe you get a cheat code to QHHT to see what was the reason behind that. Maybe they've had 5 generations of, molestation and the, the passing on, whatever the deal is. So when you let that anger go, then you raise your frequency. So let's say a soul in the spirit world, one of my clients went to the spirit world, and she was working on forgiveness, which is one of the things that she had a hard time working on. So when she was planning her life, she would go to different sections in the library that had lifetimes where people forgave great feats. And these are what in the West we call the Akashic records. So everybody has their own audio biography that they're working on. It could be a combination of this lifetime, multiple lifetimes, whatever it is, and that they work on when they incarnate. They're putting their book into the Great Library. And so when souls go through and they go research material, they'll look over a theme, they'll open your book, and all this information about the lives you live will come through, and they will experience it firsthand, what it's like, and they'll go, okay, that was interesting. Let's read another book. Okay, that's interesting. I think I have an idea of what I want to talk to my life planner about, and explore the curriculum, explore the what my next travel is going to be about. I want to have fun. I want to create new things. But I also want to work on my spiritual growth through this experience as well. And we're going to work on forgiveness, or we're going to work on just being unconditional love, or we're going to work on, whatever the topic is you're going to work on, or we're just going to work on trying to work on my purpose and, just being myself, being who I am. So they might come back like gay, or they might come back with some kind of handicap that would help raise the consciousness of people around them, whatever the thing that they plan. But this is where they get the material. So like I said earlier, Bucky Fuller's contribution about buckyballs and everybody being sacred geometry, like you have your own song inside, your voice creates a 2D that becomes a 3D mandala or platonic shape. Okay, you are creating your autobiography that you put into the Great Library. So
your song is your vibration.
Your song is your vibration. Your vibration is your book. Your Merkaba. It's all the same thing. So even in the Bible, it said God created it through sound, through a frequency. It was a frequency. You have your own frequency. You have your own name. So whatever term you want to use it. So we're all creating our own autobiography. We're putting in the Great Library for everybody else in all creation to reference. And so the answer is always the same that comes in my sessions. Once you have your awakening and once you start working on your ascension, the answer is, how do you want your book to read? Okay.
Yeah.
How do you want your playbook to read? Do you want it to be 100 years of just being a horrible person?
Right.
If you want to.
That's the same thing that came to me. It was like, everyone's a star of their own show. It's like, what kind of star do you want to be? Do you want to be the hero or do you want to be the villain? It's really quite that simple, isn't it?
You want to be a really good supporting actress? I mean, and everybody's working on different levels too. In this lifetime, they may just want to be a supporting actress, and that's fine too. Because everybody has their roles to play. And it's not just about this lifetime, because when you incarnate into different realities or versions of yourself, you're adding to your book, and your book becomes more dense. Your Merkaba becomes more dense. Your frequency becomes more dense and higher. That's why people who radiate at a high frequency typically are around very influential people. They are very influential themselves. And, when they show up in events, everybody's happy. Good thing the conversation never ends. 6 hours later, you're still hopping on the same conversation because, that's what these people, that's their energy. That's what they bring. In Buddhism, we call it the Tulku children.
Mm-hmm.
People who are of a high frequency bring it into this reality. But everybody can be a Tulku children. Everybody can be an indigo. Once you get to a higher level of consciousness, you radiate at the same frequency.
Right. So it's like when you think of the volunteers or starseeds, some of the terms that we have of people sort of coming here to be a Jesus type figure in the modern age or a Buddha in the modern age, they're actually spreading that to other people as well. Even if that's not what they originally came to do, they're helping raise, I guess, the consensus reality, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. And, honestly, I mean, everybody who's incarnating here is working on their awakening.
Right.
Okay. In order to cut, because Earth has her own consciousness as well, she is moving on to a higher level and of course she's very kind, so she wants people who lives on her to also raise their level of consciousness so that they can be stewards of the planet and be good to her. So the people that she wants to create a reality with are people who are going to be the best version of them, and they're going to be the holistic doctor. They're going to be the scientist that's working on ways to recycle and provide clean energy to the earth. They're working on ways to live more organically and be more helpful to the earth. They're working on ways to address poverty and help people address poverty without causing harm to the earth. These are the type of people that she wants to create that greater reality with. And in my sessions, what happens is they are getting this information, on how to be the best version of themselves, but also how to infuse metaphysics into their work as well, because by doing that, they are also being good stewards of the earth. Because a lower dense frequency is one who's going to trash the earth and, pilgrimage it for everything they possibly can. Mm-hmm. They're not thinking long term. They don't think the earth has a consciousness. But in modern science, they've already proven the earth herself has her own song. And we can all listen to it. Go to YouTube, you can listen to the song of the earth, just like you have a song. And the earth has a book that she's putting into the Great Library as well. So I bring a lot of science into this as well.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I have very left brain, and so do my clients. So I help my clients through QHHT bring the right brain into the left brain and kind of fuse the metaphysics into their everyday life. Yeah. So a Canadian company called the D-Wave Systems. Mm-hmm. Everybody in academia, many of them have already kind of bridged that left brain, right brain. They've already bridged, and they're working to bridge more of bringing that metaphysics into the fold, into mainstream, so that it's not so fringe. So it's actually, and they've already proven it, and they're continuing to prove it more and more. The only people who haven't come to it are people in religions and people who are continuing the age-old feuds. But the D-Wave systems in IT, so in IT, they're the concept of ones and zeros, is actually a universal concept in consciousness. So when God created, or the universal consciousness created the quote-unquote Big Bang and wanted to experience itself through blasting off into all these different types of versions of itself, you, me, whoever, to have its own experience. In order to do that, they had to create a here and a there, a 0 and a 1. Mm-hmm. In IT, we call that bits. Zeros and ones are bits. Now, they've already proven in IT the parallel realities exist with the D-Wave quantum computer, because the D-Wave quantum computer functions not just as a 0 and a 1, a here or there. It superimposes between the 0 and a 1. So a quantum computer functions as a qubit. So it's also a zero and a one. It's both of them at the same time. And there's a space between here and there, a one and a zero. There's a space in between. In order to have this, there needs to be this. In order to have opposites, a polarity, there needs to be an in between. Mm-hmm. This is how the universe created this whole experience for itself to experience through all of us. So, so in the D-Wave quantum computer, what they have found is they will pump in a bunch of questions for solutions to problems that they have. And the result that they will get is they will get answers to their problems about people that don't exist, about solutions that don't exist in our reality. And they've looked, and it's actually very substantial. So where is this quantum computer that is $15 million that the US government, who was the first purchaser from D-Wave Systems, where is this getting this information from? Because in terms of energy and the energy that the internet sends out, it's all the waves are all over the place. Mm-hmm. So it's functioning like energy, and so there's no parameters or limitation like we put limitations on ourselves. Mm-hmm. So the quantum computer is getting this information from the web of all the universes, and it's just sending you the answer. And so so we found in science, or we found in technology, that there are parallel realities, and we're getting answers to our problems from parallel realities through a physical 3D computer. Okay, so that's already been proven. Same thing with CERN. CERN, again, is a collaboration, I think, over 120 scientists around the world. And in front of CERN, there's a lot of symbology and structures from, the Hindu tradition, Buddhist tradition, different traditions. Because CERN is testing out these theories in consciousness, and they're finding much of the same thing. And the image of what CERN looks like, that they were working on, it looks like a mandala. It looks like a 2D sacred geometric mandala, and that's the same exact image that's documented in Buddhist artwork as well. And a lot of Buddhist artwork is documentation of metaphysic knowledge going all the way back to Lemuria. So, and I'd be happy to talk about Lemuria.
So it's really all coming together, and we can see how a lot of these things that have been considered fringe are becoming mainstream as science starts to prove it. And, we do this intention meditation on Saturdays because we've discovered it's very scientific that we do have the power to make changes if we all just put our focus together on something. And it's very scientific. I mean, there's been numerous studies, so we know that.
So many studies.
Yeah.
There's so many. This is not fringe. This is not woo-woo.
Right.
Okay. The more, if you look, I watch a lot of TED Talks, TEDx Talks,
yeah,
Google Talks. A majority of the material that they cover are metaphysics, but through modern research in the different fields that the speaker is working on. And the reason why is because a lot of the people who work at IT, like myself, they, in order to grasp and be familiar with technology, you have to, kind of be really open-minded to working and collaborating with other people. And the concepts are very metaphysical in nature. So a lot of this new thought is infusing into the things that we consume through the internet. Mm-hmm. And you can see that in the type of speakers that get a lot of viewership through TED Talk, Google Talks, and so forth. So, and I do get some artists that are working, like myself, working on books on different things, and computer programmers here in Seattle who are working on different topics, and they're just happy to be able to infuse their interest in ancient archaeology, ancient metaphysics, some shamanism into creating magic cards, for Magic the Gathering, because it's here in Seattle in I actually almost got a job there.
Really?
My husband is a major magic fanatic because one of the developers went to Whitman College, where he went, the private school where he went in Eastern Washington, and so he almost lost his marbles when he heard that. And I said, no, I ended up getting another job, another IT job somewhere else. It was 5 minutes closer to where you were, so it would have worked out just fine. So a lot of synchronicity happened for how my husband and I met. But when you start living in a higher frequency, synchronicity becomes your everyday.
Yeah, it's happening for all of us here. Yeah, we're seeing it all the time. It's like mind blowing. The
Yeah,
way everything gets connected, and you're like, wow, it's like somebody sends you an email that's just about something that you've just been talking to somebody else about, and it's like they were completely not connected, but you can really see that instant feedback that you were talking about early on about our reality feeding back to us individually, and then it happens with other people too. So a lot of times when people are on real similar frequencies, like you and your husband, you're getting all of these synchronicities that align with each other too, right?
yeah, it was funny because my husband and I, we actually met on Match.com, and but we couldn't met earlier. So when we finally met, a lot of he's in a band, and a lot of his bandmates were like, oh, I don't know about this person, and they're very protective of him because of his past experience with other women. So but as I got to know him, I ended up finding out that his best friend was dating a gal who almost set us up on a blind date when I was in college with him.
Wow.
We met when I was 28. So we almost went on a blind date, but I was dating my ex-husband at the time. So I said, oh no, I can't date two people at the same time. It's too much. It's too much for me. So I said no to my future husband. But then I met his bandmates' wives, and one of the wives was my best friend in elementary school. The other one, she was a college mate of mine at the University of Washington. She was best friends with my best friend, and every day we would see each other. As we split off to the buildings that were across from each other. His mother did grassroots marketing and work for a local politician here in Everett, Washington. And his son ended up sponsoring two families from Laos and Vietnam, and one of them was mine after the CIA secret war in Laos. So there's that, and then it just goes on, and it's just funny how the synchronicity. So when you radiate at a higher frequency, these synchronicities will happen all the time.
Yeah. That reminds me of
Fun.
oh yeah, it's a blast when you sit and it's just little hints that there's so much more going on. We do have higher help that's right there all along. We're never really alone. And I can totally feel that I get help all the time, little drops of intuition and things like that. But it reminds me of an image that I'd seen of a couple when they were little kids. One of them had taken a picture at Disney World, and in the background, you see their future spouse in the background going by in a stroller or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, wow, what are the chances of that? But your paths would have crossed at some point anyway, right?
Yeah. So it's just really funny. It's funny, and then I do love the glitches in the Matrix. I laugh about that all the time. Like,
oh yeah.
And those really crack me up. Glitches in the Matrix, and so we'll see that with my husband and I. We'll just laugh about it. But the thing is, again, it's really all about manifesting your best version of yourself, whatever version you want to be, at whatever level you are at. And if you need some help, go get a QHHT session. If the other modalities aren't really helping you get insight on things that you're working on, because it's really hard for the spirit world to watch like those orbs all around you, to watch you spin your wheels. Mm-hmm. It's really hard for them too, because they're there, they're ready, and they're waiting to nudge you along, but you're just stuck in your own story. So stop spinning your wheels and go get help.
Perfect.
And there's so many practitioners.
I do.
But the same thing that happens in every one of my sessions, I get the same message from all my sessions of QHHT. So I've put those messages into these sentences because it's always the same. So in short, this is the last message I want to leave your audience with, that comes through from the Oversoul to all my clients. And I put it into this message. So the last message is that the Oversoul wants everyone to know is that you've always been enough. You've always been enough. And use the gifts and the resources all around you to create the life that you want to experience. A life full of joy and love. And the spirit world will nudge you through synchronicity. And you can do it. Okay? You can do it. So that's the message that the Oversoul wants everyone who wants to radiate at a higher frequency to keep in mind.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Vine Galt. That's Vine Galt, ladies and gentlemen, and we will definitely have her back in 2020. We have more to talk about Lemuria. We have this more of the spirit world. We won't run out of stuff, and plus you're already getting stuff in your sessions all the time. So thank you so much. Lots of love and light to each and every one of you, and thanks again, Vine, for being here. All right, peace. If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.